guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought to have a video talking about a couple more bullet journal related updates. How has it been going so far? Let me just go through some realizations that I've had recently again with my bullet journal. I had a very recent video like a couple of days ago or like 2 weeks ago talking about how I have been fine-tuning my bullet journal practice, and I have been closely monitoring, well, I do follow the bullet journal YouTube channel, the one created by writer Carol, and there has been a lot of updates with regards to the form and function of the bullet journal. It is still the same, but there have been some small tweaks here and there, and I thought that maybe I could try to see if that kind of tweak will be beneficial to my practice. And I did mention before that the way I bullet journal is specifically when it comes to rapid logging is really listing down my tasks, some notes, and a couple of other bullets that has something to do with gratitude and wins of the day. And I also have my dashboard that you're seeing here. I also mentioned in my previous video that the way I've been doing my daily logs, as you can see here, are kind of like sparse initially. It's really just about logging in all of the things that I have to do for that day, a couple of micro journaling stuff, and that's pretty much it. But I thought that since I was following the bullet journal method, the official YouTube channel, and I saw some changes that have been happening there with regards to how the daily logs are done, I wanted to try if it's something that I could also apply with my practice. I just want to say that I've been really loving how I've been using the daily logs, wherein I do the nesting method as I mentioned in the previous video, and at the same time, what did I do here? Let me just take a look. See here, like this is one of the things that not really bothering me as much, but I wish I could improve on, specifically with regards to filling up some spaces. There are some days wherein it could be like this, wherein half the page is just pure white space, and there are some days wherein I will really fill out that one page a day. But one thing that I have noticed is that here, let me bring you closer. I have been logging in some of the time that I have been working on certain things. The reason why this has been a new addition to the bullet journal method is to kind of like take a look at where you spend your time, or how often does your task change in a given point in time throughout the day. I find that this specific change or specific addition to the practice really beneficial. What I do is I log in the time that I start doing a task, and if there's anything else that I do that's different from the task at hand, I would log the time that I do it so that I know where I actually spend my time. So for example, here on Saturday, I started the day 9:20 to buy coffee downstairs at my neighborhood cafe. And sometime at 11:10, I went out of the house to do my laundry, to go to the laundromat, and so on and so forth. I find that this specific change to be quite insightful because I know where I spend my time, how often do my tasks change throughout the day, and what are some of the things that I've been thinking and feeling during that time. So, and by that, I'm able to keep a log of all of these various things that I do in a given day. And at the same time, I do that nesting thing wherein I also do some micro journaling interspersed with some of the task bullets and the feelings bullet. So I find that really helpful when I try to take a look at it when I do my weekly reflection. And speaking of weekly reflection, I wanted to show you something that I did change. So initially, let me just go through a weekly reflection that I have. Let's take a look at something that's far back, just so I can show you how I've been doing things differently. So initially, this is my weekly reflection wherein I talk about, or like I summarize important aspects of my life, like my health, work. I also talk about my hobbies and kind of like do some bullets with regards to whether it's a positive or a negative feeling that I had related to that update on that part of my life. That exercise for me, the weekly reflection, is really very important when it comes to synthesizing what has happened through the week and also to make sense of what has happened in terms of my feelings towards it, so that when the new week comes, I have had this insight and I am a bit more aware of how to manage my expectations, how to temper my emotions so that I won't be ruled by it. Doing a weekly reflection helps me to be more present and to assess what has happened that week, so that when I approach the new week, I catch myself from, being swept away by my emotions. So basically, this is what I do with the weekly reflection. I just summarize my thoughts and feelings about these specific sections of my life. Last week, I did something different. Not completely different. It's more of something that I've already been doing, especially with the monthly spread here. So every month in this Owl Paper Planner Journal, I just wanted to mention that aside from using up my monthly spread, there is always like a blank grid space here that you can do whatever you want. What I do is I do this kind of reflection at the end of every month to talk about what worked and what didn't work, more of the things that I need to do and less of the things that I need to do, as well as preparing for the next month. So that's what I do here. And this is something that I kind of like brought upon here in the weekly reflection. And I use ChatGPT because I was like thinking about, how do I make the weekly reflection a bit more different? Because I feel the reason why I wanted to change things up, so to speak, with the weekly reflection is that the former style that I've been doing that I showed you earlier is that it's kind of like autopilot. And to me, I feel like that assessing what has happened for the week, it has helped at some point in my life. But at this point, I feel like, I have done this before. I don't reference it anymore. And sometimes I don't feel like doing it. And there must be something that has changed with my mindset that I feel that style of reflecting upon the week is not working for me anymore. Hence, I asked ChatGPT, hey, can you help me do a weekly reflection based on Writer Carol's bullet journal method? How do I improve on my current weekly reflection? So I gave that prompt and it gave me these prompts. What went well? What challenged you? Some of the lessons learned, how you felt, and what are some of the things that you want to achieve the following week. And to me, that is a little bit more reflective because when I did this exercise last week, I had a lot more things to say. There are a lot more things that I realized that I glossed over in my previous way of doing my weekly reflection. And one of the things that has worked with this new style is the lessons learned. When I talked about what are the things that went well during that previous week, I am able to reflect upon the good things that has happened because of what went well, right? The good stuff, and whether they are small or big accomplishments or stuff to be happy about, stuff to be grateful for. I put it here, kind of like made a couple of bullet points about it. What challenged you? I feel like it's another more positive way of asking myself, what could I do better? What were the things that did not go well for me and kind of like pushed me to do better? And then the lessons learned, I feel like it's asking me, what do I need to do next? I like that kind of thinking about these things because I feel like I'm not just dwelling upon the stressors or the things that aggravated me throughout the week, although it's good to put them in a list, right? And to like see them reflected back at you so that, there's a power in seeing some of the things that, triggered you emotionally or mentally, at least for me. And then how I felt. This is really important. It's not just about saying, in that day I was so pissed. Then in Thursday, I was really annoyed at something else. But to go deeper than that, than those kinds of feelings, these prompts have helped me drive deeper into questioning myself, why I was feeling this way, what triggered me, how I felt, how should I act upon it, what do I need to do next week, basically the goals next week. So the goals next week here in this section is not about doing X number of tasks or doing this kind of project, but for me, the way I approached this question was that what do I need to do the following week based on those prompts that I just answered throughout the week. I hope that makes sense, because I can't stress enough how important a weekly reflection is, especially if you're in a highly stressful environment, whether you have a lot of responsibilities or whether, you're juggling many things. There are certain things that would trigger you or would put stress or anxiety in your life. And to be having that moment in a week to devote to thinking about these things and not just ruminating, but to actually ask myself how things went and what are some of the proactive things that I can do the following week so that I don't put myself in the same situation. I know it's a long-winded explanation, but I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I guess that's what I've been doing with my bullet journal. And after those changes that I observed, like, logging in some of the time that I did when doing certain tasks, I have carried it over throughout the following week, and I find myself really becoming more present and becoming more aware of not just what I need to do, but how I was feeling in between, because there's just so many things that I do in a week because I manage so many projects at work. And sometimes I do not have time to pause and reflect, in a fast-paced environment like where I worked. There's really no time for that. But this planner journal has given me that opportunity, those micro moments that I can do some micro reflections. It's been really helpful. And at the same time, I could always go back to these spreads to understand where I was, where my headspace was back at that time, because documenting things for me on a mental aspect is really important for me to understand certain patterns. And by understanding those patterns, I am becoming more aware if something triggering is about to happen that will put me off or like make me spiral emotionally. So this change in my bullet journal system has been really helpful for me. If I look back at my main planner here, like, look at how white or like super spacious these spreads are. And then when you get to May, it has become, really fleshed out. And I can see how my practice has evolved. And I really am very proud of myself for being able to adapt to how things change in my life and how I go along with that when it comes to the bullet journal practice. And this is really the method that has been really working for me. And you can see that I have very sparse deco. I am certainly finding myself to be not the kind of decorative planner. Not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to have deco in your planner. That's totally fine. But for me, what's really most important for me is having the time to like dump all of these things on paper, and on weekends have that time to process and assess everything that has happened. So yeah, and this weekend, it's May 18, as I mentioned, and I have to do my weekly reflection. So I will be taking the time to do that here. Oh yeah, there you have it. That's my update on my bullet journal practice so far. Talking about my bullet journal, as you can see, it's May 18, and I've already plotted out like the number of pages that I'll be using for the following week, and I barely have enough pages for June. I'm already foreseeing that this is just gonna last me until May. There will only be a couple more pages left, and for me, that's not gonna make it. I want my entire month in one bound notebook. And if I continue on until June here, I will probably only be able to document like the first few days of June, and I would need to transfer to a new planner. Basically, this is like an ABEC style planner journal. So July to December is another book, but I really do not have enough pages for June. So what I did was I bought this B6 It's also a B6 notebook. This is the Pilot Ilmily. Ilmily notebook. It's also gridded, and what's great is that it's a 4mm grid. And the GSM, I have no idea how thick the paper is, but it is kind of thick. There are no page numbers. What I'm gonna do with this notebook is to use it as my supplementary notebook for this planner journal. I have ordered Marissa's B6 Slim supplementary notebook for the all paper planner journal, but that one is still in production, or I believe she is going to have that in production soon. So I need something to hold my June month together. So for the meantime, this is gonna be the notebook that will help me get through June, or at least until I receive the pre-ordered B6 Slim from All Paper. Yeah, I just picked it up from my nearby stationery store, my neighborhood stationery store. I really just need a booklet because who knows, I may not be able to finish this. I feel like I'm not gonna be able to use this for the entire June. I don't have that much, going on in my life, but I really do want my entire month to be in one notebook. But I think that because by the nature, the grid here is a lot bigger than this planner journal, I feel like I'm gonna be doing 2 pages a day here, basically. So at least I will have my June here. And I already did the preliminary pen test. I used my Lamy Safari fine nib here, my Swiss Bee Vac 700R, that's a broad nib, my Hongdian M2 a fine nib, and my 1.5 stub nib from Lamy. And there is no bleeding, super minimal ghosting, you guys. I love this paper, and it's made in Japan, so I definitely find this super reliable. I said that I have no idea what the GSM of this notebook is, but it is quite thick, so it is fountain pen friendly. And if I remember correctly, this notebook is part of a bundle if you buy the Pilot Ilmily pens. I think they are gel pens, I'm not sure, but I think they are. It came as a set, but my local stationery store sold these notebooks individually, and good thing I found this because there are other B6 notebooks out there, but they're a lot thicker, and I don't need that thick of a notebook to hold my June. And if the July to December All Paper is gonna be the same, wherein I might run out of pages, and then I could still use this notebook. I don't think I'll be able to completely use this up for June anyway, but that is the plan. And I can't believe that. Look at this planner. It's thick. It's like a full year common planner, but this is just a half year, and I'm almost done with the notes pages. Can you believe? It's insane. But yeah, that is the plan. That is what I plan to do this upcoming June. And the fact that my planning system is low maintenance, setting this up is not gonna be difficult at all. I just use I just set up my Alistair method and just write some of the daily headers, and that's good to go. I love that. And that's pretty much it for today's video. I wanted to thank you again for taking the time. Please do hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.